y'all ladies?
We're good. How are you?
Good. So good to see you.
We're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Can
love.
you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm still good. Yes. I love your background, Michelle. I
Thank
love all the
you.
family pictures. You're welcome.
Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Perfect.
All right. I will turn it over to you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we develop within academic support programs, we developed the 4-phase student re-engagement plan to provide support to students as they transition back to school in a virtual and in-person setting. And on the main page, you will find several links. And there is a link that will take you to a short video that provides an overview of how to navigate through the plan. And there's the link for the short video. It just provides an overview. And then you will find the purpose and guiding principles of our plan. So when you click on the purpose, it just shows that, again, the purpose is to help students transition back and address their emotional and mental health needs with a focus on trauma, racial trauma, and equity as the foundational components in the re-engagement process, while also providing resources and training to our professionals and our teachers. And then we also have guiding principles for the entire plan. And the first one is to create re-engagement guidance that fosters support for our overall health and well-being of our students. And our second guiding principle focuses on equity and the strategies that are needed to create and address racial trauma and create an equitable environment. And then our third guiding principle focuses on providing resources and training that is needed to improve our relationships, routines, and resilience with our students. Another link on the overall main page is a link to our roadmap. And this provides detailed information on what the re-engagement plan consists of. It's divided into 4 distinct phases. Our initial phase addresses support that was provided during our NTI 1.0, and it provides NTI plans and support strategies. Our phase 2 is our transitional phase, and when you click on that, each component will provide detailed information on what is in the plan. And so within transitional, we have strategies on training, as well as strategies on universal supports and screeners. And so our roadmap basically provides just an overview of each of our phases. Our phase 3 provides targeted supports and resources for our families and our students. And that consists of individual and small group resources and support, how we can engage with our families and have that connection, and then also a focus on trauma. And then for our ongoing phase, and that's phase 4, that's where we address components such as equity and racial trauma, as well as self-care. And with our ongoing phase, we say that these are resources and components that need to be embedded throughout each phase. And what we're going to do now is go through each of our phases and click on some of the links so you all can have an understanding and you can just have information on the overall layout of our plan.
Thank you, Dr. Averett. So I'm going to go into the next phase of our plan, which is transitional. And all of this is kind of put together through our academic support programs department, which is led by Dr. Alicia Averett, who you just heard from. My name is Michelle Searcy, and I'm the lead counselor. I'm one of the departments that fall under the academic support program. And then we also have Terry Kendall, who is our specialist for our mental health practitioners. So if you click on transitional support, it's going to take you to a different screen. And our transitional support is really designed to help you focus on building relationships, routines, and resiliency as we welcome our students back next week. So you'll see here that we have links embedded throughout. And on phase 2, we have it on training, universal supports, and screeners. So we'll just start with the first one, and that is training. So when you click on training, it's going to take you to a repository of trainings that have already been vetted and processed to make sure that we're giving you all of the information you need to help you have a successful school year and help address your students' need, as we have all been through a very traumatic experience over the last 6 months. So you'll see here that the training section is broken down into webinars, self-studies, and professional readings. You'll also notice that there is a level associated with each. We have foundational, intermediate, and more advanced. So if you wanted to read an article on understanding secondary traumatic stress for educators and how that impacts you as educational professionals, you can click on the link right here and it'll take you to a great article that'll help you in that area. If you have a little more time and you want to do a self-study, you'll find those in the orange section, and you can read a short description and look at the link that is associated with each of those. Also in our phase 2, we have universal supports. And when you click on universal supports, you'll notice that it's broken down into specific age-appropriate content. So we have early childhood, elementary, middle school, and high school. Now, universal supports means that this is something that all students should have access to, not just a few. So if we know that if we lay that foundational support, we're going to be able to meet the needs of the majority of our students. So I'm just going to click on elementary for today's purposes, just to show you what that looks like. When you go into the elementary universal support page, you'll notice that the resources are outlined in the same format as you saw with the trainings. We have foundational, intermediate, and advanced. So these are all things that you can do as teachers immediately on day 1 to kind of help our students deal with trauma, with the stress that they have been experiencing, everything that we know that our students are struggling with. Our universal supports can help you. So we have social emotional learning lessons, we have check-in circles, and we have all different types of bibliotherapy and read-alongs that you can do with your students. Also in phase 2 is information on screeners. Now, when we're in our brick and mortar building, we know the signs to look for that a student may be struggling. So perhaps they're not as talkative as they usually are. They've stopped hanging out with friend groups, or they've just kind of changed as a student and they're not interacting in class as much. Those traditional indicators that a student may be struggling aren't going to be as obvious in a virtual world. So that makes screeners even more important. It's a proactive approach to provide information about students' emotional and behavioral health. So you can see here it's laid out by administrator, teacher, and mental health professional. Our mental health practitioners are going to be leading the initiative on screeners, but it's going to be a way for us to quickly identify students that may be struggling so that we can connect them to the appropriate counseling support. Screeners should happen after you've known the student for at least 8 weeks. It's not something that you come in and do automatically, but just know that your mental health practitioner is going to be bringing you more information on that. And I'm going to turn it over to Terry Kendall, who is going to review our targeted supports.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, if we can make sure that the screen shows, if not, maybe I'll have to share my screen and show it. So if you want to go ahead and click on phase 3, which is our targeted supports for families, students, and staff. These are the very important topics that have to do with individual and small group counseling, family connection, and trauma focus. So individual and small group, these are actually resources that are intended for students that need more intensive supports, more Tier 3 support. And they are divided, so it's for mental health professionals, the MHPs and the counselors. So we start off, again, these are broken down into early childhood, elementary school, middle school, and high school. If Michelle, you want to pick one of those, and then we can show what those look like. So this is middle school. And again, this is for, in case nobody heard me, this is for mental health practitioners and school counselors to use these for our more intensive support kiddos. And again, they're resources that are broken down into foundational, intermediate, and advanced. So we would definitely want to start with the foundation and move on. There's activities, there's printables, presentations, worksheets, there's blogs, websites, videos. It's pretty fun things, pretty important resources that would really help our kids. Okay. The next one is our family connection. And so these are resources intended for our families to help during this time. Because as we know, we're all struggling with some of our emotional wellness skills. So if you want to click on one of those, again, they're broken down into grade levels, just like the last one was. And these are, again, broken down into foundational, intermediate, and advanced. It's really nice. We've even got some things that are in Spanish. But again, this is different tips, a toolkit. There's recipes, resources, all kinds of really important things. Even mindfulness is in there for families, which is a great thing for families to take on as a mindfulness practice. So yeah, so you can see the newsletters, emails, websites. All right, and the last one is trauma focused. And this is so important. So I'm really glad we put this in here. And if you want to click on one of those, again, we're broken down into early childhood, elementary, middle, and high. Again, foundational, intermediate, advanced. So it takes the legwork out of this, takes the guesswork out of this. And we put descriptors by all of them again. So this is toolboxes, self-studies, handouts, articles, videos, websites, a little bit of variety in there. So that not only does it help with staff growth, professional growth, it also provides resources for staff to support students as they're growing. And we really wanted to focus on resilience because instead of really focusing just on the trauma, we want to help grow, because then we can focus on resilience and helping students heal. So those are our phase 3 supports.
All right, sorry, I'll switch back over and unmute my mic. We're going to go back over the ongoing phase. So phase 4 is ongoing, and the components in this phase should be incorporated throughout the year with an intentional focus to ensure they remain a critical component of school planning and conversations. So the 3 areas that are in the ongoing phase are equity, racial trauma, and self-care. So we're going to start by exploring the link on equity. So this section is broken down into information that administrators will need, teachers, and mental health professionals. Now we know that equity in education requires putting systems in place. So we're going to first for today click on the bell and it'll take you to a site that has just a huge repository of information to help guide you in this work. It can be a little overwhelming because it's 30 pages long. So what we wanted to do is to also break some of those components down for you so you didn't have to go through the entire document. I think one of the upsides or silver lining of COVID-19 and being shut down is that we have really seen a huge increase of supports within our community and within our country, but sometimes those supports can be overwhelming and we don't know what is a good support, what isn't, what should you spend your time reviewing, and it just becomes very overwhelming to try to keep up with all of the different supports that are available. So we've really tried to break that down and take that off of your plate so you don't have to do that. So we also have a learning repository that you can look at, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more on the next slide. And then we're going to look at specifically on the Bell Equity Caring site. So this is specifically for teachers, and it gives you access to lessons, helps you to connect with your students and get to know them as people, and really gives you a lot of great information on building rapport and building relationships. And we know that that's been a key in a lot of the conversations this week on the Learning Channel, is how to develop authentic relationships with students when we don't have them in our classroom. So then we're going to transition on to racial trauma. We have a lot of racial trauma that our students are experiencing, our staff, our parents. And even though it's brought to the forefront right now, we know that this is not new for our students and our teachers and our parents of color. This has been going on for decades, centuries. So we want to make sure that we are addressing racial trauma and that we don't sweep this under the rug. And we need to help our teachers understand how to do this in an appropriate way, and not only give them resources that they can use to work with students, but also give them resources that can help them grow in this area of understanding. So we know that we have to do some legwork, and we have to have difficult and hard conversations, and that it's going to be uncomfortable at times. And so we're all in different spaces and places in our journey. And so we have broken down here staff professional growth, so information that can help you grow as a professional. And if you're at the foundational stage, that's okay. If you're just needing to start really understanding how race and trauma affects students, how it affects the adults that you already interact with on a daily basis, we have that for you. If you're a little bit more in the intermediate phase, that's great too. And then we have some recommended literature. One of my favorite ones is When Schools Cause Trauma. So a lot of times schools can be a traumatic place for our students, unintentionally so. So when we are able to step back and examine what we do that causes trauma to our students, we're able to address that more adequately. Now, a moment ago, I told you about this learning repository, and I want to take just a second to dive into that and show you what this is. So here we have a list of readings, professional readings that you can read to expand on your understanding of racial trauma. We have a whole bunch of different books and articles that would be beneficial. You can go to Watch and Listen, and here you're going to see movies and films, and even have links to podcasts and videos that can help you grow. And then we do have a few conferences and trainings. Those aren't as much as what we are used to seeing, just because a lot of our conferences that are typically taking place have had to shift due to COVID-19. So we really want to encourage you to dive into that and take a look. But then after you address your own understanding and education in the world of racial trauma, then it's important for you to know, how do I work with my students? And the approach that we use at elementary school is going to be very different than the approach that we use, let's say, in high school. So we have broken down these resources by grade level to make sure that they're appropriate for the students that you serve. One of my favorite ones on this list is Kojo for Kids. They hosted a show with Jason Reynolds, and he talks to kids about racism and protest, and really gives you a platform to kind of bounce off of and be able to open up the conversation and have enriching conversations with your students. I promise they need to talk about it. They're experiencing and they're hearing things and they're seeing things and watching things, and it's impacting them as students and as individuals. And so we need to give them the space and place to do that. But we want to do that in a responsible manner. So here are some resources for you that you can use in your journey. And then lastly, we have information on self-care. And I say lastly, but really this should not be the last thing that we focus on. We know that with all of the traumatic experiences that our students are having and that we are having as individuals, oftentimes as educators, we carry that on our shoulders, and it can become very heavy. And if we don't take care of ourselves, it's going to cause burnout, and it's going to start impacting your own family and your own health. So this is important. It's not just something that we say, it's something that we actually have to do, and we have to be intentional about it. I'm going to click on the teacher resources, and you're going to see information on resources for secondary trauma. So understanding how secondary trauma impacts you as educators, but then what can you do to take care of yourself? We don't want to wait until you are burnt out and turning in your retirement paperwork because you've not taken care of yourself. We want to help give you strategies to take care of yourself in advance so that we can all stay healthy, so that we can do the job to the best of our ability, while also realizing that we are important too. Our kids are important, but you're important too. And so we have to take care of ourselves in this journey. So we want to just pause for a minute, see if there are any questions, and we hope that you find the resource useful and beneficial as we come across a year that we have never seen before in history, and one that we certainly need to collaborate with one another and pull together to make sure we're supporting ourselves and our students and families through this journey.
Yes. Right now there are currently no questions, but however there is a delay, so I'm pretty sure some questions may start coming in. But someone, Shannon Willis, she did say that great information for those mental health practitioners and teachers. Thank you all for presenting today. It was awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.